What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the NerdBall Fantasy Football Show. I am your humble host, Pete Rogers, and for the first time in a while, I've been joined by my fellow nerds. We have resident old man Clark Barnes and the working girl Jordan Smith. My friends, my friends, my friends. How are we today?
Doing great, Pete.
Doing swell. Ready to talk about football again.
Swell. The delightful, the leaves have changed. They're fallen to the ground. We are in the thick of football season. Halloween is just around the corner. This is the time this is exactly around the time where I get really antsy with my fantasy teams. And I just go in a trade frenzy and starting to just fire out as many trades as I possibly can think of, because I always want to go out and get that guy who's going to, completely take over the second half of the NFL season. I want to be the man who have him, and it takes a lot of finagling on the old trade wires.
Yeah, it's time to come to the reality of where you are in your teams. If you're, 6-1 or so, probably want to package up some 2-for-1s, and it's desperation time. You want to make some trades without sinking the league if you're 1-6, but don't just die. You got to keep at it.
Or if you're in a dynasty league and you're sitting at 6-1, it's time to maybe trade a draft pick and grab some stressed asset off of a team that's tanking, because they should be out there by now. I think if people are sitting there at 2-5, 1-6, and they do an honest assessment of their fantasy football dynasty, they know they don't have it this year.
I feel like that's a fair assumption. And if you are sitting in that position, you know what you should do. NerdBallFF.com and look at Jordan's 2023 early rookie rankings for Dynasty, because your chances are you're going to have a shot at one of these top guys if you hold on to your draft picks. And no time like the present. It's never too early to start researching if you are a losing team. What is it, 0-7, 1-6? Boy, a tough place to be. We have lots to talk about this week. We are going to start off, though, as we always do, with our nerdgasm. What's been your nerdgasm this past week? Clark, why don't you start us off? What have you been nerdgasming over?
The Houston Astros are going to the World Series. And Pete, I feel like we are brethren in that anytime I get excited about the Astros doing well, of course, I live in the godforsaken Pacific Northwest. I get excited about the Astros. I go and see them. And then the bitter little plebes like to talk about how cheating was involved.
Welcome to the club, Clark Barnes.
Yeah. And it's just cheating and championship both start the same way, baby. You just bring it on. Go Astros.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to the Houston Astros. I'm glad that they're succeeding, but also it brings me so much joy to have their success also be going through the New York Yankees and sending their pinstriped butt homes just in time for Aaron Judge to go sign a bajillion-dollar contract with the LA Dodgers somehow, because the Dodgers somehow will always have money to basically build a super team. That's the extent of my knowledge of baseball right there. It's that the LA Dodgers have deep pockets and will constantly spend. Has the World Series started yet? This is again just reflecting. Not yet.
It's great. Oh. I mean, and like you mentioned, even if they don't win, still got to put the Yankees out of their misery. I mean that's a good season.
That's what we all live for, honestly.
Who are they playing in the World Series?
The Phillies. I saw a great tweet about how the World Series is being talked about. Of course, I don't know. I barely follow football sports talk, much less Major League Baseball sports talk. But Philly is being cast as this, scrappy upstart team who has a higher payroll than the Astros. So root for the little guy. Root for the Astros. Go Houston.
Yep.
And if you're like me, you are learning for the first time who is playing in the World Series. So welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to a fantasy football podcast where we talk about the World Series. Jordan, what did you nerdgasm over this last week?
Honestly, there wasn't a whole lot for me to nerdgasm about, because there was a lot of down performances for a lot of my teams across the board. Like guys that I really like people on the Ravens and just not a lot of. I'm thinking of just terribly playing Kenyon Drake. I kind of had to. I didn't really have many other options, but I was so disappointed when Gus Edwards came in especially after the week Kenyon Drake had. But I guess my nerdgasm will be on how much better defenses look this year, and I think on the Mina Kimes show featuring Lenny and Dominique Foxworth, they talked about this. They talked about the rookie corners and how they're playing better and how they're just kind of, I think we're getting to a point where corners are learning how to play the game within these newer rules that are more favorable to offenses, more favorable to quarterbacks. So we're starting to see this generation of young cornerbacks, guys who are in their like rookie year all the way up to their third year or so usually. They're starting to learn how to play these like back shoulder fades and how to just come in right away, whether you're Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley Jr. or Patrick Surtain, you're coming in and you're just locking down the number one guy right away. That's like super impressive stuff. So I can't wait to see how offenses end up countering that in the years to come.
Yeah, it's been like quite the stark contrast. And I know a lot of people, a lot of smart minds on Twitter have pointed this out. And just in terms of like, you can look at quarterback production, quarterback, I think like EPA, and all kinds of these stats and how it's just like been drastically, noticeably lower this season than it has in like over the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, and I like it. I think sometimes we see positions go through a bit of an ebb and flow, and we're kind of seeing, I think, an ebb in running back performance. There's not a ton of superstar running backs who are just absolutely killing it. And after the Richard Sherman experiment came through and all of that, there's been kind of a lull of really dominant cornerbacks. And there's like 4 or 5 or 6 of guys now in the league that you start to feel really uncomfortable when your top fantasy wide receiver is going to face that corner. And it's nice to have that be back in part of the fantasy game and the real game.
Yeah. All about them narratives. My nerdgasm for this last week, and I'm just going to tie it into something that's coming up in this week, but I like when things work out for me personally. And so, that I feel like that's a pretty easy thing to enjoy, but I also like when things just work out for people whom you're rooting for. And the James Robinson trade, you hate that it came because Breece Hall out for the year with a torn ACL. However, you do love that. At least I love that James Robinson, after this return that he's had from his Achilles injury, he started off with a bang in Jacksonville. The team clearly was starting to shift their touches over to Travis Etienne. And instead of James Robinson just kind of like becoming a number 2 option in Jacksonville and kind of seeing his return from ACL, Achilles, kind of not cast aside, but become an afterthought, maybe not having a full season of really being able to carry the rock. He gets moved to the Jets, who need a running back. Obviously, Michael Carter is still there, but I think they want to run a 2-back system, and James Robinson now gets another chance to kind of continue to show the recovery that he has made from that Achilles and keep balling out and keep playing good football. And on the flip side, Travis Etienne now unquestionably the RB1 in Jacksonville, and I am absolutely loving that. As I pointed out on last week's podcast, I went absolutely bonkers for Travis Etienne in weeks prior, and acquired him in every single one of my leagues. And now I am just very happy for everyone involved in that trade, including myself.
Yeah, it was definitely a trade that like seemed like it came from the mind of maybe literally this podcast is like, oh, the Jets are down a running back. Where is a spare running back that has really good fantasy value that could go onto this team? And yeah, it's nice that James Robinson will be able to get the opportunity here. Hopefully it leads to a good situation for him next year, whether that's through free agency or what have you, because I mean, Breece Hall will be back, but I don't know, if you made a deal for James Robinson in Dynasty, maybe you could get some sort of abbreviated discount, because you can talk the person into saying like, oh, I'm only renting him for a year. Who knows about next year? It's all up in the air. So you don't have to like I don't know, deal a late round first or something like that.
Yeah, I like it. So y'all know I like big backs, and I won't deny it. But
No lying here.
I feel
Like big backs, and I won't deny.
I also like Michael Carter a lot. And the everything has its reaction. You know, if someone's winning, sometimes someone else is losing. Can't wait to see what we see out of Michael Carter in 2 years. Interesting thing I saw as well, you know, James Robinson has to hit, you know, whatever stipulation for the draft pick to be better. Again, do not bet against James Robinson. So I think it's going to end up being like a 4th or a 5th. So pretty nice work for the Jags, even though I hate that they're doing this to my boy.
I also wanted to leverage this since November 1st is now the trade deadline. I want to throw out 2 trades that I want to, since we're already seeing good trades happen. I want to throw these trades out into the ethers to see if they can come true. One I think is maybe realistic. Can we get Kadarius Toney on a team that's actually going to use him? That could be fun. Maybe Los Angeles Rams. You love just shipping out picks for wide receivers. Jordan, your Green Bay Packers seem really in on Chase Claypool. Can I offer you Kadarius Toney instead? Can maybe
I'm not interested in adding anything to this team right now unless it's draft capital.
And then this is speaking of trades that come from the mind of this podcast. I know Jordan's going to back me up on this one. Very unrealistic trade. It's never going to happen. But if Arthur Smith is just going to refuse to use Kyle Pitts in the sense that he should be used, can we get him to a team that's going to throw him the ball double digits time a game? Like the Jaguars, who are currently targeting Evan Ingram like 6.5 times a game. Fucking Evan Ingram is getting 6.5 targets. Or Hayden Hurst in Cincinnati. Can we take a moment and just think of the Bengals offense with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Kyle Pitts, Joe Burrow? Oh my God, it would never happen. But my goodness, would I love me some of that. Kyle Pitts is never going to get traded. But Arthur Smith should learn how to utilize a generational tight end that you drafted 4th overall. Just throwing it out there.
How about playing Desmond Ridder and see if he targets Kyle Pitts? I'll
It's not
settle
even
for
a target.
that.
Like Kyle Pitts is, I think, like 3rd among tight ends, 4th among tight ends in target share. He has a 20% target share. It's just that Marcus Mariota is throwing the ball 12 times a game. It's like, what are we doing here? Why are we going back into like the old annals of time and running the football 50 times a game when we have 5 running back, where like each running back is getting 10 touches? I'm not happy, Clark. I'm not happy.
While we're here, Mike Gesicki to the Bengals would be fun.
Ooh,
or just
like
using Mike Gesicki.
Mike Gesicki
on
also
the Dolphins would also be fun. But
let's just use, if you have a very talented athletic tight end, maybe use him. Just call me crazy, but I feel like that's tends to be good footballing.
Oh, one more dynasty nugget. Jordan. Yes. Is Gesicki an interesting free agent landing spot away from being like tight end 5 next summer for dynasty?
I feel like you'd have to be in a
is not that huge of a mountain.
Yeah, like I feel like he would have to be in a situation where they're not really depending on him as an inline blocker. Really, as a tight end, all you have to do is like be willing to do that, and at least get in somebody's way. But Mike Gesicki needs to be more of a split out wide. He's like a discount Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews can at least block a little bit, but like you're splitting him out more often than not. But he's so athletic. Like he can literally get above the rim to grab a football in the end zone. And I feel like he's going to do it a few more times before the year is out, and we might be able to see some flashes. But if he went to another team, like I was trying to think of good teams for tight ends for Kyle Pitts. And what if he just went to the Eagles? Like, what if they just added him to go with Goddard, and we're just like, all right, we got our other athletic guy. They would be so vertical and so horizontal at the same time. It'd be insane. But obviously that's just making the rich richer. So that's not very fun.
I know. I feel like that not gone are the days in which you have a lot of offenses that heavily utilized, taking full advantage of their tight ends. But there was that period of time where it was just kind of like there were a lot of teams that were making their offense run through their tight ends to some level. And now it's really just kind of boiled down to Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. Zach Ertz kind of, I guess, but not really. And Dallas Goedert. The Eagles.
Well, it's Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, and then like 15 guys who in NFL and fantasy terms are like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That
could work. All right. Some good nerdgasms to gasm about. Before we do some scary starts to get into the Halloween spirit, I wanted to give you guys a Dwight Schrute fact of the week. And I'm going to ask this in terms of a question to you guys. And you guys, if you want to take a guess, you can take a guess. It's just a little fun. You and the listenership can pause after I ask and think about brainstorming your head. There are only 2 wide receivers, you guys, in the top 15 of per rating. And that's our metric for fantasy points per target. So only 2 wide receivers ranking top 15 in fantasy points per target who have a target share above 20%. Clark, do you have any guesses whom those 2 wide receivers might be?
Devontae Adams, because that's like guessing Jesus in Sunday school.
Good guess, but no.
No, I don't know. I can't. That's the good one, Pete.
Jordan, do you have any guesses?
My first guess is Drake London.
Also a good guess, but no. He and Devontae Adams actually is averaging 1.58 fantasy points per target. Drake London has settled down a little bit, 1.28 fantasy points per target.
I knew his target share was
incredible.
Insane.
Yeah, it still is. It's still 29.3%, which is delightful for a rookie wide receiver. I'll give you one of them. One of them is Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, 26.4% target share, and he's averaging 1.94 fantasy points per target. It's wild. He's averaging almost 2 fantasy points per target and is the leading his top 5 in target share, top 10 in target share. Man's insane. Number 2 is
Austin Eckler.
No, that's not a bad guess. What is Austin Eckler?
Wait, are we only doing wide receivers?
It's only wide receivers. Austin Eckler's target share is 19.8%, and he's 1.08 fantasy points but it's per touch because it's a running back.
With Keenan Allen out, and then now Mike Williams is going to miss a month. I was like, his target share has got to be like 25% right now.
Austin Eckler is now the number 1 wide receiver in Los Angeles. No, the number 2 receiver, top 15 of per and average and over 20% target share is Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is averaging, what is he? I just had it up. Jalen Waddle, where are you? 1.76 fantasy points per target and a 21.1% target share. So Jalen Waddle, it's low-key productive in that Miami offense.
And since we're talking dynasty, Jalen Waddle, the poster child for why you should trade down a little bit and just take whatever first-round wide receiver.
Just take him, especially with the hit rate, man, on these first-round wide receivers recently. Good Lord. It's preposterous.
We're bad at projecting. So the trade down, get more stuff, and then, you might get the guy.
You might. You never know. Or you just, pick some random running back and suddenly Dameon Pierce is everyone's hot waiver wire ad. You trade him off for a first round pick.
Yeah. I think
also,
Justin Jefferson was like wide receiver 6 or 7 when he came out too. I mean, there's Jamar Chase's too. Sometimes the 101 is great, but
I was going to say, I think also that the 2021, was it 21? Yeah, last year, obviously. I think that might have just been a historically great wide receiver draft.
A ridiculous draft. All right, let's get on to some week 8 starts for fantasy football. Talking real fantasy football going on for week 8. Now, normally we do must starts at this part of the show, but given that we are recording this days before Halloween and that we are in the spooky, scary season of Hallows Eve, we're going to spice it up and we're going to give you some scary starts, some players. And this is my definition of it. I'm sure everyone has their own definitions of it. So you guys, I'm excited to see what your definition was. I have two different starts. One of them is a player whom I'm scared to start this week, but I know I kind of have to. So I want you guys to talk me into that. It's going to be okay. And then another one is a player whom you might be scared to start at the level that I think he could perform this week. And I'm just here to give you the confidence to put him as that in your lineup. I'll start with the guy who I'm scared of starting this week. And I know it's preposterous to say I'm nervous to start Christian McCaffrey, but I'm a little nervous to start Christian McCaffrey this week simply because of two things. First of all, Rams defense, number one. Actually, I think they're number two technically in fantasy points per game allowed to running backs, but tied with the San Francisco 49ers. They are giving up the fewest red zone fantasy points to backs. They've only given up, let's see, on a total basis, they've given up 2 rushing touchdowns this season, 0 receiving touchdowns. And while I'm sure that Christian McCaffrey's usage in his first week with the 49ers was due predominantly to getting used to the offense, getting back into the flow of things in a Shanahan offense, he saw a 45% opportunity share in week 1. He was not instantly given the reins. That may change as we continue to move forward. But it might be a couple weeks before we see Christian McCaffrey getting the Christian McCaffrey usage that we're all expecting him to. And a lower Christian McCaffrey usage against a very, very good defense has me just a little bit worried. Clark, Jordan, talk to me. Would you guys be scared to play Christian McCaffrey as your RB1 this week?
I have a similar definition for one of my guys, and it's I'm starting him, but I don't like this.
Yeah.
And I don't feel good about it, and I don't like this, but you'd have to have an absolutely amazing team to actually get away from starting him. That's how I feel about McCaffrey. You're right. He might not get the reins right away, and Shanahan's weird. So we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out.
Yep.
But I don't know how you get away from not starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my player for a scary start kind of falls in that same category of like, yeah, you're going to play him, but also you don't really feel that great about it. It's worrying you. It's going to worry you until they kick off. And Christian McCaffrey is probably one of those players because, I mean, he's a great player. He's really good. If I was on this podcast last week, I would have told you how bad this trade was for the 49ers because it wasn't a very good trade.
From an actual football standpoint, it makes very little sense.
The thing is, like the Los Angeles Rams, though, this trade will look really good if they make a deep playoff run in it. And it would be because of the studs, like their blue chip talent that they have, Debo, Christian McCaffrey now. And you kind of need that when your quarterback is Matthew Stafford at the end of his career or Jimmy G, who is basically a game manager. I would still start Christian McCaffrey because he looked good. He still looked good on the field, and he didn't even have a full grasp of the playbook.
Right.
I know he's a Stanford kid, but he had the book for a flight, you know.
But Adam Schefter assures me that a Stanford guy should be able to memorize that instantly.
That's one of the requirements, I guess, for getting in to Stanford. But yeah, you're playing him, but it's like, I don't know, does Kyle Shanahan decide that the best person to win right now is a Jeff Wilson running back who's been playing really well? And maybe you need somebody in there who knows the back of the playbook, you know, for a close game at the end of the fourth quarter. I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of factors into when a player goes on to a new team and you just haven't seen enough of it on Sunday yet.
Yeah. I agree with everything you guys have said. I don't know how you get away from Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if I can get away from Christian McCaffrey. I do have both Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne. And so I might be able to finagle something where I can like just stockpile on wide receivers this week and hope for the best. But it doesn't have me worried. I'm certainly not relying on Christian McCaffrey getting me RB1 or maybe even RB2 production this week. So I might bump him into my flex for just a I don't know, tribute recognition, knowing that that's what it's going to get me. Clark, give me one of your scary starts or your scary start.
Yeah. very much the same vein. Damian Pierce coming off the bye with the Texans. He's showing that he definitely belongs, but going up against a Titans side that has held Jonathan Taylor to 100 yards rushing through 2 games. So this is another one of I don't know how you get away from him. Maybe if he was just such an end of your roster guy that you have an embarrassment of riches situation. You remember Saquon Barkley's week 1, like, oh, you're the running back 1 again, fawning all over him game, was against the Titans too. So it's not like they can't be had, but Damian Pierce is the scary, gosh darn it, I'm going to do it, but I don't like it. Scary start.
Yeah. And even to what you said, though, I mean, Saquon Barkley ran all over them. But since then, Titans top 5 in fantasy points allowed to running backs this season. So they're a stout run defense. And yeah, Damian Pierce is, I think he feels more, and maybe this is purely just based on like draft pedigree versus, it seems to me like a guy, Damian Pierce is one of those like, oh, you added him off waivers or you drafted him late in your draft, and it's like a nice to have, and so you maybe can bench him because your lineup is still constructed such that you have players who maybe have more, you're more reliant on or more trustworthy to less of an extent, as opposed to Christian McCaffrey if you draft him as your RB1. But if you like Damian Pierce has been balling out and you're like, great, I can trade away Kareem Hunt now because I'm going to get myself a wide receiver. Now you are kind of relying on Damian Pierce, and in a tough matchup, maybe he underperforms, but yeah, at this point, you're pretty committed to him if you've made moves expecting him to be an RB1 week in, week out, of which he's been most of the part.
Yeah, I literally, Damian Pierce was the guy that I had before I settled on the player that I actually picked, because I saw that Tennessee, and we're starting to get into a point in the season where like defenses are really starting to show you who they are. They're not just having one blip of a good game and getting out of it. And Tennessee is currently 3rd right now in rush DVOA. So they are right there with Buffalo's 1st. The Rams are 2nd, and they're above teams like San Francisco, who's been playing really well, or Indianapolis has been playing really well against the run. And then I went to Twitter, and Damian Pierce, type it in the search bar, you start getting tweets like this. With at least 100 scrimmage yards and a TD today, Damian Pierce will become the 5th rookie since 2000 to record 100 scrimmage yards and a TD in 4 more consecutive games, joining Alvin Kamara, Saquon, Odell, and Kevin Jones from 2004. I don't remember him.
Kevin Jones.
He's 1st among rookies in rushing yards and first downs. Where's another one? Damian Pierce has rushed for more first downs, 28 through 6 games, than Saquon, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Playoff Lenny, Ezekiel Elliott. Like, these are all guys who we were probably like, yeah, Christian McCaffrey is scary, but the rest of them are like, yeah, locked in. So I was like, I don't know if I can pick Damian Pierce as my guy because I want to play him. He's getting a huge share of the offense, but the Tennessee defense is like, I don't know. What if this is the time that Damian Pierce gets stopped? He is only a rookie.
Yeah. It does feel like a game, cold water game is inevitable for the Damian Pierce hype train. Jordan, who is your scary start this week?
My scary start is Aaron Jones. Not going to sugarcoat it. Green Bay sucks. They are they are not playing very good football. Like, I have my setup on Sundays are, especially if the Packers play the noon game, generally I have them on the TV, on my iPad with Red Zone on, something like that. No, the Packers got demoted to iPad, and Red Zone is on the big screen now.
That's devastating. That is, if Aaron Rodgers can't use that as fuel motivation, then I don't know what more he needs.
He's too busy cracking wise on the Pat McAfee show. Aaron Jones has just been so underutilized in Green Bay. It's a little frustrating at this point. AJ Dillon is not playing well. Like, it kind of feels like maybe there's an injury there that we don't know about, because the way I've been describing to people is that Aaron Jones looks like he's ready to hit somebody. AJ Dillon looks like he's bracing for a hit, when really it should be the opposite, because AJ Dillon is a truck. But he's going against, like I said before, Buffalo is the top ranked Russian defense by DVOA. Oh no, they're the top ranked defense overall by DVOA. Number one in rush, number 4 against the pass. And this isn't prime time, so that just makes me feel not good inside. He's currently the RB10. And he was buoyed pretty heavily last week by getting involved in the passing game. He had like 9 catches on 10 targets. But in the past 2 weeks, he's only had 8 and 9 carries. He hasn't scored a touchdown on the ground since week 2. He scored 2 touchdowns last week, and then he had another receiving touchdown in that same week too. But those other games in between, he has not found the end zone because the Packers offense is just not really getting close. They're not getting into a very good scoring position. Their play action passing game is terrible. That would help Jones out. And they're still committed to this running back split, even though he's the best player on their offense right now. And I think that's pretty true by a wide margin. I think you're still playing him, but if you're like me and you play fantasy football to try to get wins on the margins, like that's your strategy, is try to win where nobody else is thinking. You want your guys that you plug in on a weekly basis to just do their jobs. Like you want your first round picks to do their jobs and score you north of 15 points maybe. But I'm just worried Aaron Jones isn't going to do that. And that's why he's a scary start.
Perfect pick. I think more so than any other back that we've talked about, and we've all been talking about running backs, but more so than any back we talked about, like this is the epitome of like uncertain usage in a struggling offense against an elite premier defense. And add that all together, and it's easy to think that Aaron Jones is going to give you, doesn't even need to be a dud of a game, just an underperforming game, a game in which you just are not going to get from him what maybe you need to get from him. And then you turn to your, waiver wire, you turn to your bench and you're looking like, okay, where can I make this point differential up? And sometimes that takes a bold move to be like, this is the week, Aaron Jones, you're going to sit on my bench. Maybe you get me still 7 points, but I'm going to trust, I don't know. Here's a guy. I wrote about him in this week's Fantasy Football Volatility Index, where we look at neck ratings, which is our efficiency and consistency metric, and identify guys whom you are high risk, mid risk, and low risk starts. And Antonio Gibson, low key has been a rock solid RB2 this season. He's currently RB 19 and half point PPR, averaging just over 10 points per game. And he is one of the top running backs in our neck rating, meaning that while he's not going to get you super splashy RB1 weeks, he is consistently proven to be an RB2 / high end flex option every single week. And so like, that's the kind of guy where it's not pretty. If you said it like, I'm going to bench Aaron Jones for Antonio Gibson, people will be like, you're crazy. But you want to put the guy in who you were trusting is going to get you that production, while Aaron Jones maybe has the higher ceiling this week. Can you risk it? And maybe you can, maybe you can't.
Yeah, I have Jones everywhere. It's been super up and down, but I mean, Jordan nailed it. He looks amazing, but sometimes there's no offense to be had. So this is a great holding your nose and starting, but feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then quickly, the guy who I was going to talk about. So this is for if you have this player and you're thinking about starting him and you're like, oh, I'm feeling nervous. I understand Chris Godwin hasn't really done drastically all that much since he's returned from injury. The Bucs offense has looked kind of shitty, shall we say, put it nicely. However, he's had at least 6 catches and 43 yards in every game since he's been back. And during that time, which has been since week 4, he's the wide receiver 28 in half point PPR. So he's, consistently fringe wide receiver 2. And this feels like a really plus week for him, as the Baltimore Ravens secondary started off the year terrible. They've gotten much better. They're now allowing the 8th fewest points per game to wide receivers and the 9th fewest yards. However, that has not translated to the slot position, which is, of course, where Chris Godwin has operated most of his snaps since returning. They've given up the 5th most points per game to slot receivers, and their starting corner, Demarion Williams, I think I'm saying that right. We were talking about all the good cornerbacks in the league now. Well, he is not one of those guys. He's allowing a 144 passer rating currently. And so I think that Chris Godwin, seeing the work that he has gotten since he's come back, this is a week where Chris Godwin is going to give you the Chris Godwin numbers, the high wide receiver 2, maybe even low end wide receiver 1 numbers that those who drafted and held on to him through all of his injuries and all of his ups and downs this season were expecting from him. And I am saying this because I have Tom Brady and I want Tom Brady to finally give me an effing good game.
Yeah, outside of Christian McCaffrey, this is just a list of all of the people that I counted on this entire fantasy season. It's been, we're middle of the road right now, but it could go off the rails anytime.
This is a tough season for you, Clark.
I flirted a little bit with making Lamar Jackson my scary start because it's been like 3 straight weeks of, granted, when you're watching the Ravens, you're like, oh man, he's doing his best, like with what he's got.
Right.
But in fantasy terms, it's been like single digit scoring outputs for the past 3 weeks, and that's not great. But I'm like, Lamar Jackson on Thursday night, I kind of want to you got to run with it.
Pun intended.
Yes.
Because he's a running quarterback. He uses
he's a running back and a quarterback
He's
spot.
a running back. He's a running back. He and Daniel Jones are both running backs. And they will succeed at that. All right. Well, there you go. Those are some scary starts. Hopefully, if you are planning on starting any of those guys, I guess none of them did we really instill much confidence in, but we commiserate with you. You will know that, when you feel and you're like putting that person in your starting lineup, you're like, oh God, I don't want to do this. Just know that the 3 of us are watching over your shoulder saying, yeah, dude, we don't want to do this either.
I feel like everyone we named is at the, I know it doesn't feel good, but let's not get cute level of like, look, I know there may be some hot guy that people talk about Friday and Saturday, but you really should go ahead and start these guys.
And we're also early enough in the season that, like, if you drop a game, that's okay. If you're getting close to playoffs and looking at seeding and then also into the playoffs, that's the time when you're like, all right, name be damned, draft position be damned. I need just the maximum amount of points. Am I going to start this player? Because I need, I can't get a dud game. And maybe they'll give you a dud game. All right, before we go, it's time for top 5. And this week, we are ranking them down. Jordan has got for us his top 5. Now, I keep interrupting my own announcing of what this segment is called because I have to clarify with Jordan. Are these top 5 scary movies or top 5 Halloween movies?
I guess. Okay. Let's full disclosure. We're peeling the onion curtain back. I couldn't help myself. I did not 5 scary movies. I did 5 double features of movies that can be considered horror / thriller and a double feature for the kids too. I was thinking about you, Pete.
Wow. This standing ovation for Jordan Smith.
This wanton disregard of the rules. I love it.
I love it. All right. So we'll praise this. This is top 5 Halloween evenings to enjoy at the cinema with Jordan Smith.
Or just at home on the couch.
No. You have to be there. That's the whole point of this, Jordan.
Well, some movies need to be seen in the movie theaters. Go to movie theaters.
Number 5.
Number 5 on the spooky season double feature list. This one's for the family. This one is in case you have younger ones who you can't just have blood-curdling screams on the television for 90 minutes. We're going with Hubie Halloween from 2022 and Beetlejuice from 1988. They're family friendly. They're easy to put on with the kids. I'm not sure if it was the pandemic in 2020, but when Hubie Halloween came out, it was kind of a fun watch.
Oh my God.
Are you agreeing with me, Pete?
I have not seen this movie, but all I have heard is just absolute shit about it. So I'm amazed that it's showing up on this list.
It's a pretty average movie, but growing up, I had a funny bone that Adam Sandler just knew how to hit, and
there you go.
I think that it can resonate with kids again. It's Adam Sandler doing the thing where he hangs out with his friends for 2 hours and he reunites with Julie Bowen from Happy Gilmore, so that's fun.
We like that.
Beetlejuice, Apex, Tim Burton, Star-studded cast: Michael Keaton, Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin, Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder, for all you Stranger Things fans out there. I watched this as a kid. Maybe I shouldn't have, because there is some disturbing imagery.
There's some real shit in that movie.
I think if you're, the 13 to 16-year-old range, if you have those kids in the house who are like, oh, I don't want to watch Casper, throw on Beetlejuice and see how they like that.
I love Beetlejuice. Great movie.
I feel like I'm way ahead of schedule. I know both of the movies.
Wow, Clark Barnes.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you seen Hubie Halloween?
It's not so bad. I mean, it's not.
Because is this not famously the movie that after Adam Sandler did Uncut Gems, he was like, if I don't win an Oscar, I'm making the literal worst movie ever. Is that not Hubie Halloween?
I don't know if that was Hubie Halloween or Murder Mystery, the other Netflix movie. I can't remember which one was which.
Okay.
But
which came first? The chicken or the egg?
Yeah. Okay. Again, like I said, I don't know if it was because it was 2020 and we hadn't had
this is the same phenomenon why everyone liked Tiger King. Everyone was like, and then Tiger King 2 came out and we're all like, oh, this is maybe past its moment.
But Beetlejuice, that's on the Mount Rushmore.
Yes, Beetlejuice is top.
It's an all-timer for me.
Yeah, great movie. Number 4.
Number 4, we are going with Alien from 1979. And Prey from this year.
Woo!
We're going back and present now. The tagline for this double feature should just be "Badasses boss up to defeat an extraterrestrial." It's Alien, Ridley Scott, Sigourney Weaver. She helped usher in a whole era of horror, sci-fi, like women in that genre. That you had people before her, like Sissy Spacek and Carrie, or like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, who's still in Halloween movies, like literally this year,
30 years later.
And now to Amber Midthunder and Prey. It's just Prey is a really fun movie. It's just a really good watch that you can put on in the afternoon. It's not too like dipping your toes into the horror aspect of it, but it's monsters and aliens. That's what Halloween is all about. And it feels like with Prey, like I can talk about Ridley Scott and how he helped continue a long line of sci-fi and horror with the Alien franchise, but like Prey and the Predator series kind of feels like it's getting a reboot now. So if you're really into that, I would check out Prey. I would watch it with the Comanche subtitles too, because it just makes it feel more real. I don't know if aliens are too far-fetched for you and like monsters from space, like maybe you need something that's a little bit more grounded. I think that can help. But yeah, I included this double feature as like the monsters and aliens section, I guess you could say, of horror and thriller.
I love Alien, one of my favorite movies of all time. And Prey I haven't seen yet, but I've only heard good things, so it's on the list.
Alien is amazing and holds up. If you've watched it recently, they do a lot of awesome practical effects, which, don't make a movie or ruin it for me, but it's fantastic. I have a dissenting opinion on Prey, but it's worth the 2 hours to watch it. I mean, it's not that bad.
See, the thing is, it's on Hulu. So like if you have Hulu, or if you have a free trial to use up, like it a lot of these are just readily available and free. So
which is important for a movie night. Yeah. Number 3.
Number 3, we are diving into a little bit more thriller category of horror. And this double feature is Seven from 1995 and Silence of the Lambs from 1991. The number 1 movie in the country the week I was born. A little fun trivia fact for you. And I put this double feature on here because I feel like we've been getting a lot of serial killer content.
It's making
more
its
recently,
way back, isn't it?
Depending on your mileage on that, or whether or not it should be content that we consume, you can go into these movies that are largely fictional and explore the psyche of serial killers with creepy realism. There isn't a monster, an alien, or demonic possession, but instead it tests the limits of what people are actually capable of, the disturbing things that people can be capable of, depending on which bad guy you're looking at in the movie, whether that's Kevin Spacey, who's a villain in this and in real life, or Anthony Hopkins, who was just so good at being creepy that he won an Academy Award for it. So killer performances all around. And yeah, like I said, Silence is just a great award-winning movie. So if you need one of those in your lineup, that's what you got there. 5 Oscars from that one.
Love both those movies. In fact, I need to see both of them. I have been wanting to see Seven again because I haven't seen it in a long time. And it is a very disturbing but very good movie.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Saw Silence of the Lambs way too young, and it has stuck with me. I mean, both of these are just great, but that's my, as a, I think 9-year-old, I was like, who cares? It's rated R, but I'm in my friend's house who are his parents don't care about that. Let's watch this.
Oh, have you ever had Canty since then?
Yeah, but I mean, like, every time you look in the mirror, you have this thought in your head that shouldn't be there. So thanks.
Every
time that
Anthony
song comes
Hopkins.
on, it's like, oh.
Who of your friends did the better James Gum impression?
See, that's for the after hours show.
Ooh.
Number 2.
Going full method. That's fun. Number 2. Some more recent fare from the same, not the same director as any of the other movies, but these 2 movies are from the same director. Ari Aster, Hereditary, which came out in 2018, and Midsommar, which came out in 2019, back to back. There are 2 deeply disturbing movies. They're a little less traditional horror in a certain sense, because what Aster, as like a filmmaker, what he's really trying to do with these is dig into familial trauma and inherited trauma. So when you're watching these, you might end up thinking a little bit about some of the personal things that you've experienced in your life. So I would be a little bit trigger warning for Midsommar, especially in the first 5 minutes of that movie. I'd be concerned. But again, deeply disturbing films that are very good to watch. They're just fun. They pack 2 powerhouse performances too. Shout out my girl Florence Pugh in Midsommar, and then Toni Collette in Hereditary is just very haunting and very good. I'm so glad that I've been watching a lot of Toni Collette movies lately, and I just think she's really fantastic.
Yeah, I have seen Midsommar. One of the most amazing things about it is the fact that it's one of the few horror movies that I've ever seen / heard of where it's all set in the day and in the sun, and it still is terrifying. Yes. that's just excellent directing and excellent concept. I have not seen Hereditary yet. I have heard so many good things about it that I feel like I should see it, but Clark and I talked about this on last week's show. Your boy does not do well with horror, so maybe I will be watching it at noon with all the lights on.
That's good. I've got another one for the list. Midsommar. I'll have to check it.
Very good.
I should have caveated that at the top too. Is I'm not a very big horror person either. I'm not very big on slasher type of films. Even the trailer for that new Smile movie kind of freaked me out. So I'm not actively seeking these. If they have all of these, except for maybe Hubie Halloween, have some sort of artistic value to them. So caveat.
We'll be hearing from Adam Sandler's lawyers, I'm sure.
I can't believe it's on this list. I love it. Number 1.
Number 1 on the double features list is Nope from this year, and John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. I went with that one. Nope is available to rent on demand right now. I actually watched it last night because I'm obsessed with that movie right now. It's very good. And then The Thing is also available to stream on Peacock, so that's a free one for you. Both I found were stories of people facing a mysterious occurrence. I'm trying to say this without spoiling too much. The occurrence is basically picking people off, people and animals off one by one, and they have to figure out how to overcome these circumstances in both of these movies. Right immediately after Nope came out, you started hearing the comparisons to Nope and The Thing. So I just thought instantly this should make it a pretty good double feature for people. The Thing is just, it's cynical, it's steeped in distrust. So like not only is it a cult classic horror, but it's also an kind of an anti-authoritarian text. Nope is similar in that way, in that it observes nihilism and how we consume spectacle today. So I thought those parallels were really great. And in Nope, there is a thing, and obviously in the movie The Thing, there is a thing. So like those two, I don't know, they're kind of more classic horror monster movies than is initially on the surface. Plus in Nope, you get Daniel Kaluuya, and
who is just
he's this generation's best actor, is my opinion.
I'm absolutely loving the fact that Jordan Peele will just have him in absolutely every movie that he makes.
They literally said, I want to be Scorsese
and Leo
can be my Leo. Yeah.
Love it. Sign on the dotted line. Yes, I will watch everything.
I'm excited for Nope. We talked about John Carpenter a little bit last week with my fun homage to The Faculty. I'm sure that The Thing is based on some other story, but if you want to get into the history of horror, there have been a lot of references to movies like The Thing, and you really nailed, we talked about Carpenter being really hit and miss, but the message that he sends with a lot of his movies, I think, are fantastic without us spending 2 hours discussing the politics of it. But The Thing is another one where like very clear messaging that makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited that Nope is available for rent, because that's another one that's on the list.
Yes, Nope was very good.
For $6.99 or $5.99 as a rental too, not that $20 ridiculous.
When you have to pay as much as it is to buy the movie to rent the movie, doesn't make sense. That's not how it works. That's not how renting a movie is supposed to work, people.
Yeah, and like when you're charging $20 a rental, just know that you've got like 4 or 5 people splitting that rental, and they're all watching it together.
They're all binging it.
You're doing this to yourself, Apple.
Yes, Nope was great. I have not seen The Thing, but we talked about which movie was it that we talked about? Alien Alien with practical effects. The Thing has some of the truly the most amazing practical effects in cinema history. So that's again another thing that like really it adds just and I have not seen the full movie, but I've seen many clips from it because it's a very famous movie. But like it adds a very visceral reaction to all of the things that you see in the movie, because it's not overly reliant. Well, it's not even at all reliant on CGI. It's all real things that are. It's a very. There are scenes in it that I have seen that are very hard to watch, which makes it a very good and compelling movie.
Good list, Jordan.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Thank you. I could go on. The only thing I love more than football, I would say, listeners, is movies. So I could go on all day.
I'm gonna make Bex. I'm gonna unprompted. I'm gonna say, Becca, this is the list that Jordan thinks we need to watch, and we're gonna watch them all. But I'm just gonna like have it loaded up and hit play so that she doesn't know what movie it is. And we're just going to watch all of these until we hit Hubie Halloween, and she's not going to understand why this is on this list.
It's Pete and Bex in the house, every light on, 1 p.m.
watching Hubie Halloween.
Yeah. What you should do is just disregard the double features and just take the movies and like cherry pick. Yep. Put on Hubie Halloween, and then, babe, we're watching fucking Hereditary next.
and then we're gonna watch. Oh my god, whew, that's a movie that she does need to see Midsommar. Midsommar is an amazing movie, and that's one I can stomach because I've already seen it, and B, it's always during the day, and the day is a lot less scarier than the night, my friends. I don't know if you know that, but that's how I feel. All right, that's all we got for you this week. Make sure you rate and subscribe to the podcast on your podcast platform of choice, and go follow us on Twitter at NerdBallFF. You can follow myself at PM Rogers on Twitter. Follow Clark at NFL Clark, and Jordan at Jordan_Smith27. And of course, make sure you're checking out all the amazing content we're putting out over on the site at NerdBallFF.com. And Until next week, my fellow nerds,